Hi, Purple Ella here and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk to you about my experiences at university as an autistic student. I have made a video with Roz, who is currently at university as an autistic student, which I'll link to in a card above. But I wanted to talk about my own university experience as an undiagnosed autistic student, because some of you will have been through this experience and it will be something you can relate to. And some of you may be considering going to university, and the more experiences we share, the better. So I went to university the pretty standard route. I did my A-levels and aged 18, post A-levels, I went to university. I went to university to study contemporary dance because at the time my passion and my obsession and my special interest was all things performing. I loved dancing, singing, acting, but in particular I loved to dance and I wanted to pursue that further. So I went to university to study dance. It didn't work out exactly how I'd planned in terms of which university I went to, because I had basically failed my A-levels. Now I'm making that public. Now the world can know I failed my A-levels. Yes, so A-level college wasn't great for me. I went to a college where I wasn't hugely supported and there wasn't a lot of structure and there weren't a lot of rules. So I basically spent my college years hanging out with my friends, not working hard enough, and I failed my A-levels. That's kind of oversimplifying it. I was an unsupported student throughout my school and I was struggling and I found ways to cope with that, and I didn't know how to study and I failed my A-levels. So ultimately, failed my A-levels, got a D and 2 E's, which is not great. So I couldn't go to the university which I'd planned to. I'd planned to go to University of Derby to study dance, and I ended up going to University College Scarborough to study dance, which at the time was attached to the University of York. So my degree is from the University of York, which is actually quite a good university. So it kind of worked out okay in the end. And I got into University College Scarborough despite poor grades because my dance teacher at the time was able to write to them and let them know how hard I worked in dance classes and how well I was doing there. And that meant that they accepted me. So, aged just 18, I'm a summer baby. My birthday's in August and I left in September. So aged just 18, I moved from where I lived in the West Midlands. I'm from Dudley in the West Midlands, up to Scarborough, which was about a 3-hour journey away from my family, into student halls to study at University College Scarborough. And there were lots of really positive things about my experience at university, and there were some really difficult things, and I'm going to talk about both of those with you now. So what difficulties did I have? The first and most major difficulty that I had at university was because of my executive functioning difficulties. Now, those of you that don't know, executive functioning is our ability to organise ourselves, to be where we're supposed to be with what we're supposed to have at the right time, to make sure that we plan our schedule so that we can write our essays and hand them in at the right time. All of that, executive functioning. I have very, very poor executive functioning. And back then, my executive functioning was even worse than it is now, because obviously I've learnt strategies and things in the meantime. So I really struggled with making sure I had clothes clean, making sure that I ate, making sure that my work was done on time, getting to lectures on time. All of that was just a massive challenge, knowing what my schedule was, getting my timetable, having the right equipment, having the right books. I was on my own in Scarborough and I couldn't handle any of that. So I was lucky the first year I was in halls, and that meant that we got breakfast and dinner in a canteen that was attached to the halls. And that made life a little bit easier because it meant I was eating twice a day. Once I moved from the campus into a student house for years 2 and 3, I basically barely ate. I was really, really, really thin, not because I had an eating disorder, that came later, but because I didn't know how to cope with feeding myself, cooking, shopping, planning, shopping, cooking, feeding myself. It was way too much. And having clean clothes was a bit of a challenge until I discovered that the local laundrette was a bit of a haven where I could sit in peace and quiet with the lovely whirring noise of the machines, where it was warm and no one would talk to me. Once I'd figured that out, the laundry thing became like a fun activity for me each week, and I got much better at it. Organising my work, I never got the hang of. I basically handed in essays written at the last minute, written badly, not to the best of my ability, because I couldn't plan a schedule in which I was making sure I got that work done in small chunks leading up to the time when it was due in. That made life really difficult. because I was a dance student, a lot of so that involved dance classes 4 days a week and then lectures on top of that. I seemed to manage to get to most of the lectures because they were later in the day, so I had time to get up and then figure out where I was supposed to be and then get there. But the dance classes were all at about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I would wake up at 8:30, 9 o'clock at home or in the student halls, not knowing where I was supposed to be. By the time I'd figured out where I was supposed to be and what I was supposed to be doing, I had missed the dance classes. So for the first year, I missed loads of dance classes and looked like a really slack student. Anyway, the other area that I had difficulty was socially. University is a massive mixing pot, and I really struggled socially. And I can't really exactly remember how I was behaving, so I don't want to like lay all of this onto other people, but I feel like I tried to make friendships that then just didn't work out because I didn't really know how to manage them, like how much I should go and see them. Maybe I was too needy, maybe I was too there visiting people too often, or not enough, or I don't really know, but I really struggled. Fortunately, I made friends with a girl, and if you're out there, you know who you are, and I miss you. I made friends with a girl who I was friends with from that point throughout the rest of university, and I loved her with all my heart, and I felt like she loved me too. And we had a great friendship. We ended up ultimately living together in our 3rd year, and we had a great friendship, and it really saved me during university having that friendship, because with her friendship came a group of people who she'd become friends with, that I then became friends with, that I then ended up living with, who were kind to me. And we lived in this house, and that kind of, once I had that social group, I coped much better, but even so, I still never felt completely like I fitted in. Another area that I struggled with at university was managing my emotions. So as I've mentioned in the past, I have alexithymia, and that means that I don't find it very easy to recognise or manage my own emotions. And at that time, I didn't know what alexithymia was or that I was autistic. All I knew was feelings, big feelings, and I don't know what to do with them. So I had a lot of that, and that must have been quite challenging for my fellow students who, let's bear in mind, were also all pretty much from 18 to their mid-20s, living alone for the first time, probably also equally struggling. And they didn't know really what to do with this girl that kept freaking out, having meltdowns, crying and needing. And that was really difficult. So the sort of difficulty with managing my emotions impacted on my social stuff, and that was really challenging too. How did I cope? What did I learn? Let's go there next. I coped, as I've said, aforementioned wonderful Tabby was a big support for me and my other friends. My tutors on my course were really supportive. It was a really new dance course, and the tutors on it, Duncan and Fiona, were really passionate about what they were doing at that time with that course, and I feel like they supported us like their own children. They genuinely really looked after us and made sure that we were a small cohort, the dance majors. There were only about, I'm going to say 15 of us each year group, and they really looked after us like we were their own children, and that really helped. And somehow I managed to scrape through with a 2-2. Now I feel like I could have probably done better than a 2-2, but a 2-2 was an acceptable degree, and I mainly got that based on the practical work that I ended up doing as part of my dissertation. My dissertation, I did a choreography project and a written dissertation. Now, if I'd just been doing a written dissertation, that would have been a disaster. But because I could dance, that really helped, and I ended up getting a 2-2. What I learned at university, I learned independence skills. I learned to make pasta. I learned to make pancakes. I learned to live with other people. I learned adult skills like anybody else does at university, I guess. And in some ways, I look at my time as an undiagnosed autistic teenager and university student, and I think, had I had the diagnosis and been supported in some ways, would I have not quite become as independent as I did? I guess I'll never know. But I do feel like it was a learning experience for me, and I learned a lot from it. So moving on to what can you do if you are thinking about going to university and you actually know that you're autistic. There is a thing called Disabled Students Allowance, which I mentioned in my video with Roz, and if you'd like to know more about that, do go and watch that video. It's an allowance to provide students with things that they might need when they access university to help with their disability, which is something that I definitely would have accessed had I have known and been eligible for it. Supportive universities. Some universities run open weeks prior to starting your course specifically for autistic students. I'm sure that all universities provide some level of support for their autistic students. Social groups for autistic students definitely access those things. And I would say find your people. I think that's really important, whether that's in a specific autism support group at your university or whether that's in the anime group or the cosplay group or the board games group or the singing group. I guess we'd call that a choir. Or the drama society. Whatever it is that you're really passionate about, there will be some kind of group for it, and you might meet potential friends in those groups. And I will say that the biggest thing that made a difference to my university experience was my friends. So if you're watching this, any of my friends, thank you. You made such a huge difference to me. So find your people, because they can make a big difference. It's not that it's on them to take care of you, but feeling part of a group, feeling accepted, having people to spend time with, and you can all support each other, whether that's with cooking or budgeting or just having fun, is the single most important thing, I think, in terms of being supported at university, or it certainly was for me. Yeah, so that was my experience as an autistic student who didn't know she was autistic, aged just 18, flung 3 hours away from home and expected to live independently, having never lived independently before. It was intense. It was highs and lows. It was a massive learning experience, and at the end of it I did get a degree, so I would call that a positive experience. I would call that a win, but I would really love the opportunity to do university again with the knowledge that I now have about myself and how my brain works, because I feel like I could do so much better. So don't let having an autism diagnosis put you off that university experience if that's what you want. You go for it. You get the support that you need, and I believe in you. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have and you'd like to watch more videos, do consider subscribing to my channel and have a look through my back catalogue. There's loads of videos on there on so many different topics related to disability and autism. It's definitely worth having a look. I will see you next week. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.